why nobody lives in these 10 empty capital cities. It's gonna be interesting to see what cities pop up and how empty they are and stuff and why. Before we do jump into this, I appreciate if you guys can hit that subscribe button, and I'm also posting extra content to my Patreon page. Link is in the description. But yeah, let's jump into this to check out these cities.
When you think of the word capital city, you likely think of skyscrapers and a bustling city. However, what if I told
not in the UK, but like in America, sure,
you that there were capital cities that feel like small towns and are practically deserted? The following 10 capital cities combined are equivalent to barely 20% of the population of Phoenix, the capital of Arizona. So, what's the story behind these tiny capitals? And
yo, wait, that building is missing a
of
roof.
Arizona. So,
Look at this. Yo, that's like an apocalypse or something. Like, this is like the Walking Dead scene, right?
what's the story behind these tiny capitals, and why are some of them practically deserted?
Okay.
These are the 10 emptiest capital cities in the United States. Before we get into it, for some perspective, more well-known cities like Denver, Seattle, and Chicago have populations of 711,000, 734,000, and 2.7 million, respectively.
Yo.
Number 10, Concord, New Hampshire. While Manchester is New Hampshire's largest city by population with roughly one...
Did you say Manchester? Oh, wait. Yo, this trips me out. I'm telling you right now, I learn there's a UK place in America, like one every day, bro. Like, it is actually mind-blowing. Okay, we got Manchester as well. Okay.
While Manchester is New Hampshire's largest city by population with roughly 115,000 residents, its state capital, Concord, seems more like a little town in comparison, with only about 44,500 people. This means that out of New Hampshire's population of about 1.4 million people, only about 3% of New Hampshireites have made the capital their home. But why is this?
Why?
Well, there are several factors that explain Concord's tiny population. For starters, New Hampshire has a limited number of industries, especially compared to some of its neighboring states. So there's a kind of natural limit on city growth as a result. Additionally, New Hampshire is pretty rural overall, and people seek that out here.
It's quite
that
beautiful.
means that people might be actively avoiding Concord in order to enjoy the ruralness of the state, as opposed to living in a city.
That makes
Finally,
sense.
a combination of geography and history also play a role in Concord's small population.
Yo, is that like a rocket? Bro, that was sick.
Historically, major eastern cities like Boston, Providence, and New York City formed along the coast due to trade reasons. Because of the presence of trade, populations quickly grew in these cities. Concord, on the other hand, is situated about an hour from the closest main port.
Yo. Look at this, bro. We got Peterborough, Swansea, Chesterfield. Bro, it's crazy. Manchester. There's definitely ones here that I'm probably missing. Chelmsford. Bro, this is like if I wasn't looking at America, I'd be thinking this is the UK. You know what I mean? Portsmouth. Bro, there's a lot, man. You know what I mean? Yo, New London. We got the London. There's a New London here. Bristol. Wait, they've got all of them. Wait, they got all of them. Yo. Yo, and I bet you any money if you... Oh, do you know what would be a good video? To compare the place in America to the same name as a place in the UK. Just to make us all in the UK jealous, you know what I mean? So like Manchester, Portsmouth. But that'd be cool.
Or from the closest main port, meaning that its inland location likely resulted in a slower growth throughout history. Number 9, Jefferson City, Missouri. With a tiny population of only 42,528 and being smaller than 15 other cities in Missouri, Jefferson City was interestingly selected as the state capital of Missouri because of its location. Specifically, its central location in Missouri made it the top choice.
You got Columbia in America.
However, despite its designation as the state capital, the city has seen slow growth since the late 1800s. and has been a bit overly reliant on government expansion for growth.
Okay.
Some of this may be due to the fact that it has quickly become overshadowed by neighboring cities like St. Louis and Kansas City.
Oh,
for instance,
beautiful.
St. Louis gained worldwide recognition when it hosted the World's Fair and the Olympic Games in 1904.
That would
Kansas
give
City,
good recognition.
meanwhile, originated as a booming trade town and in the 1930s quickly grew into one of the most exciting jazz cities in the country.
Oh, wow.
As a result, these cities may have simply become more successful at attracting residents than Jefferson City.
Yeah, I can't lie. I've heard of St. Louis. I've heard of Kansas. I've never heard of Jefferson. So, yeah.
Number 8, Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay.
Annapolis, with its tiny population of 40,648, has a story that's similar to
So
Jefferson
low.
City's. In fact, throughout history, Annapolis has been overshadowed by its large neighboring cities.
Hold on. Were they cars parked on a car on a building's roof? Is that a car parking spot? Huh? Like, we have parking lots, but it don't look like this. It looks a little bit different. And then you can park on the top, but this just looks like a building. This is like a standard building where you can park on the top.
Throughout history, Annapolis has been overshadowed by its large neighboring cities. There's a
Right.
whopping 25 other cities in Maryland with more people than Annapolis.
Oh, wow.
With the biggest one being Baltimore, a bustling city that's home to about 570,000 residents.
That's a
Then
lot.
there's Washington, D.C., which is not just a city, but the nation's capital, and has a population that's over 712,000. While technically D.C. is not a part of Maryland, it might as well be. Imagine being the capital city, but being overshadowed by not one, but 2 other cities with over 14 times and 17 times your population.
Mad.
But it gets worse for Annapolis. That's right. Annapolis was once not just the capital of Maryland, but the capital of the colonial U.S. And when the capital was relocated to Washington, D.C., it's possible that Annapolis may have simply faded from relevance.
Oh.
Number 7.
Do you reckon at any point they can change the capital? For like, oh, you know what? We actually prefer this place. Have they ever done it? Have they ever changed the capital of a place?
Dover, Delaware. The reason Dover may be so sparsely populated at only 38,594 residents might
Okay.
be more obvious than you think. Let me explain what I mean by that. The state of Delaware as a whole has a pretty tiny population, as it's the 6th least populated state in the entire U.S. with a population of only about 1 million people.
Oh,
Remember,
wow.
the capital city in the U.S. with the largest population, Phoenix, has about 1.6 million residents,
Wow.
which is significantly more than the entire state of Delaware. As a result, Dover might have a small population simply because the state of Delaware has a tiny population. However,
that makes sense.
it still managed to get beaten out by Wilmington, which has almost double its population. Who would have thought? Another reason is a little bit more anecdotal. While online gossip is definitely not the most scientific of evidence, some say that Dover is simply just not that nice.
Not nice?
At least, that's according to a recent Reddit forum, where
What does not nice mean? It's super average. There's a few good local restaurants. So there's not much to it. Kind of run down straight. Okay, right, sure. You guys gotta let me know if you guys are from any of these places. It'd be really cool to find out.
one user says, and I quote, "Dover just isn't very nice."
Right. Okay.
Number 6,
Fair enough.
Helena, Montana.
Montana.
Montana has the 3rd lowest population density in the entire country, with a density of only 7.59 people per square mile.
Oh, wow.
For context,
Lot of
look at it
space.
this way. New Jersey, which has the highest population density rate in the country, has a density rate that's a massive 166 times bigger than Montana's. This might
What?
partially explain why Helena's population is so small, with only about 33,885 residents. However, given there's 5 other cities in Montana with more people than Helena,
Right.
it's clear something else is going on. The other reason has to do with Helena's history, and the fact that it became the state capital of Montana because of the discovery of gold. That's right, all the way back in 1864, 4 men found gold in the Helena area. As you can imagine, soon after this, people began flooding to the city for the chance to discover their own personal treasure. By 1869, approximately $18 million worth of gold had been discovered in Helena.
Wait. That's a lot. Bro, back in 1869, 18 million? What would that be in today's money? That'd be a lot.
In 1969, approximately $18 million worth of gold had been discovered in Helena. And by 1875, Helena had been officially named the capital of Montana. But as you probably know, gold is a natural resource, which means that there's not enough of it to go around forever. So after the gold began to decrease, so too did Helena's population. Number 5, Juneau, Alaska. Remember how I just told you that Montana has the 3rd lowest population density in the country? Well, guess which one has the lowest? Alaska,
of course.
And by far. In fact, Alaska has a population density of only 1.28 people per square mile. That's a tiny 0.1% compared to the density of New Jersey.
Pretty much each person and an extra arm, gets a square mile themselves.
The most dense state in the nation. It's no doubt Alaska is pretty sparse. And so it's probably no surprise that its state capital is aligned with this. Juneau, in fact, has a population of only 31,685, making it more of a mid-sized town than a city. There are 2 other cities in Alaska with higher populations, with one being almost 9 times bigger than Juneau.
Yeah, the only place I've heard here is Fairbanks. That's the only place I've heard of Alaska.
Similar to Montana, part of the reason for Juneau's low population is because Alaska in general has a pretty low population density. And that clearly relates to the state's cities as well. However, another reason has to do with where Juneau is located within the state. If you look at a map of Alaska, you'll notice that Juneau is pretty geographically isolated from the rest of the state. And in fact, it's actually only accessible by air or sea.
Oh, what?
That's right.
What?
In fact, Juneau is pretty geographically...
Wait, so it's here? Alaska's all here? And then... what?
Isolated from the rest of the state. And in fact, it's actually only accessible by air or sea.
And that's the capital?
Right. There is no road that goes all the way to Juneau, and you have to take either a plane or a boat to get the rest of the way.
Bro,
honestly,
that's mad.
Given all of this, I'm surprised there's even over 30,000 people living there.
Yeah, change the capital.
Number 4,
change it.
Frankfort, Kentucky. Fun fact.
I want chicken now. Bro, this is how hungry I am always, right? I just read the word Kentucky, and now I want KFC. I want chicken.
Frankfort became the capital of Kentucky all the way back in 1792, right after Kentucky itself became a state. However, the city hasn't grown that much from its early history, and it has a present-day population of only 28,391. Additionally, there are 13 cities in Kentucky that are larger than Frankfort. While it's not 100% clear why Frankfort's population is so small, one reason might have to do with the fact that Frankfort wasn't as desirable a city as neighboring cities like Louisville and Lexington. For instance, Louisville's location on the Ohio River made it a major port and transportation hub, which attracted businesses and settlers and led to major growth. Similarly, Lexington's development as a major horse breeding and trading center gave it a big economic advantage. Over time, these differences in growth resulted in Frankfort getting overshadowed by Louisville and Lexington. However, by our standards, Frankfort has earned the title of state capital. For instance, its Capitol building went through not 1 but 2 fires, after which it had to be rebuilt. Following this, the Capitol building was rebuilt
who's setting the Capitol building on fire?
3rd time to accommodate the state's growing population. So all in, the city seems to be pretty unshakable. Although given it had 2 fires, maybe it should move to Louisville or Lexington. Number 3.
Yeah, maybe at that point.
Augusta, Maine. Like we saw with Jefferson City, Augusta was chosen as the capital of Maine largely due to its geographical position. Specifically, it was chosen to be the capital due to its location in central Maine. We'll look at more of the reasoning behind that in a minute, but the city's location is the first factor that explains its tiny population of only a little over 19,000. As we've seen already, coastal cities like Boston and New York City historically have grown faster compared to cities inland due to there being transportation and trade hubs.
Wow.
And Augusta is pretty far inland, meaning that it may just not have grown as fast. Not to mention, in general, it feels like those who live in coastal states prefer to live closer to the ocean rather than inland. For instance, there are 12 other cities in Maine that are larger than Augusta, and most of them...
I don't understand how, like, you got these capital cities, right, and you have so many cities in the same state that's got more population. Normally the capital city is meant to have the most, you know what I mean, or close to the most.
Are either on or closer to the ocean. Interestingly, though, Maine's first capital was actually on the ocean. That's right, its first capital was the city of Portland. This designation was made in 1820, shortly after Maine gained statehood. So why was the capital moved to Augusta? Well, the War of 1812...
It was moved?
This designation was made in...
It was in Portland.
1820, shortly after Maine gained statehood. So why was the capital moved to Augusta?
Huh?
Well, the War of 1812 played a crucial role in this. Apparently, government officials were afraid that Portland would be too vulnerable as a city given its coastal location. As a result, they wanted to move the capital somewhere inland where it would be more protected from potential attacks. And Augusta fit that requirement.
Interesting.
Luckily, the state hasn't really had to worry too much about attacks since then.
Yeah, you might change it back now.
Can't blame them for wanting to protect their city.
Refund.
Number 2, Pierre, South Dakota. As you can probably imagine, South Dakota has a pretty low population density alongside states we've looked at like Alaska and Montana. Specifically, South Dakota is 5th on the list of states with the lowest population densities, at a rate of 11.81 people per square mile. So that's our first...
Yo, that just means there's a lot of space for you guys. No, you know what? With this, right, I'm not surprised you got the big houses with the land around. Like, America's just that big, bro. You can. In the UK, you got the house. We got a small plot of land, right? I'm jealous, man.
Factor that explains why South Dakota's capital, Pierre, is so small, with a mere 14,000 some residents.
Is that it?
Said another way, people here seem to value their space, and the city exemplifies that pretty well.
Yo, there's universities in the UK that's got more people in.
Another reason for Pierre's small population is explained through good old-fashioned history. If you remember, the Dakota Territory was split into North Dakota and South Dakota in 1889. Prior to that, Bismarck had been the capital of the Dakota Territory and remained the capital of North Dakota. But what happened to South Dakota? Well, officials basically looked at a map of the state and pointed to the center of it, and voila! Pierre became the new state capital.
Boom.
Of course, it wasn't quite that simple, but in truth, officials did choose Pierre to be South Dakota's capital because of its central location, but not necessarily because of its ability to attract a lot of people.
Right, okay.
For perspective, there are 8 other cities in South Dakota with a higher population.
I would think if you go to choose a capital, you got to choose the most populated. Do you know what I mean? Because you got more going on there. More action, right?
Number 1, Montpelier, Vermont.
Number 1, Montpelier, Vermont.
I'll start this out by saying that Vermont isn't really home to any major cities. In fact, Vermont's largest city, Burlington, still has less than 45,000 people.
What? Bro, this is beautiful. The mountains in the background here. I would love to live. I've always said this. I would love to live in a place where like you're like closed in by mountains. Beautiful.
But by comparison, Montpelier is practically a little speck on the map. That's right. The state capital of Vermont only has, drumroll please, 8,023 people. I think I've seen more people at the grocery store at noon on a Sunday.
Yo, 8,000 for capital is crazy, bro.
Also, there are a whopping 15 cities in Vermont that are bigger than Montpelier. Anyway, in other words, Montpelier is definitely more of a capital town than a capital city.
Mad.
But why is its population so small? Well, one factor is the
8,000.
lack of economic diversity here. If it weren't for Montpelier being the state capital, it's not clear if there would even be any industry here. That's seen in Montpelier's workforce, which is governed by, you guessed it, government. In fact, 30% of the workforce is in government, followed by 24% in the service industry, probably to support those government workers, and 18% in fire, insurance, and real estate. Another key factor is that the capital has struggled with a housing shortage, with demand outpacing supply. Simply put, if there isn't enough housing in a city, people simply can't move there, and its population can't grow.
Oh, wait, so people are actually wanting to move there, but they just don't have the properties for it? Wow.
What about...
You guys got to let me know if any of you are living in those cities or around it. Please let me know in the comment section. But yeah, great video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to thumbs up. Subscribe for more content. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/L3WG. If you guys want to check me out over there, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.